Hello, everyone, and welcome to this new episode of Redesign Your Life today. I'm Daniel Kobryner. I'm a mental fitness coach, and on this podcast, I invite guests who have really big transformational stories. And sometimes it's different experiences in their lives, but now they live the life on their terms. And it's very inspiring. And today I'm very honored and privileged to have Alan Frantz with us. And Alan is somebody passionate about outdoors. He's always been all his life, and he's got really incredible stories. And with life, he had undergone some transformations because of personal um, relationships, different things. But now, what he's doing, he's had this passion to coach and help people to rediscover who they are. And this with the beauty of outdoors and outside activities. This was a very brief introduction, Alan, but now the floor is yours. So very warm welcome to the show.
Thank you, Daniel. I really appreciate you having me. I'm glad to be here.
Well,
Yes,
thank you for
as
being.
as you said, I help people who have gone through some sort of major transition. Many of them divorced people, because that is part of my story. And they say, coach the people who you once were, and we reconnect with the identity that maybe they've lost or that they've compromised, or we reimagine what a new identity might be now that they've lost a large piece of them. And some of these people have moved across the country. Some of these people have lost a job, they've lost a loved one, or like I was saying, many of them are divorced folks.
Okay, well, thank you. And Alan, I'd like you to go through your story, if possible.
Mm,
I mean, what brought you there? What were
yeah,
what the major milestones in your life?
boy. Okay. So as a young child, my uncles just they always had me outside canoeing and hiking and playing in creeks, and so I was connected to the outdoor world from a super young age. In high school, I did a field studies course that took me to Colorado and just fell in love with the expanse of the West and the possibilities of all the area there is to be explored. Later, went to Utah, fell in love with the canyons in Utah, spent a lot of time there. Eventually, I did a class with the National Outdoor Leadership School. I spent a semester living under a tarp in the Rocky Mountains and the canyons of Utah, learning mountaineering skills. And then went to college at Prescott College in Arizona, where I initially went to study to be a big mountaineer, carrying big heavy loads on big mountains
Mhm.
for not a lot of money. But I was passionate about just being outside and experiencing the world really on its terms. The thing that I love about working in the outdoors is the idea of natural consequences. If I forget a rain jacket, I get wet. If I pack improperly, I might get cold. And there's something to that that just teaches us how to be self-reliant, and also that the world is bigger than just us. It helps us to reframe. My stuff is not that important.
Wow. Okay. No, this is wonderful. I have to say, when I listen to you, I'm kind of dreaming because I love nature. And although I had some outdoor experiences, but the way you describe it, Alan, it's at another level. And you just mentioned that you had this dream of doing big mountaineering. Can you let us know a little more about that?
Mhm.
Which mountains are we talking about, and what did you do?
Yeah, when we say big mountains, we mean the biggest mountains. And I had dreams of traveling around the world, climbing all of the biggest mountains. And so while I was studying wilderness leadership at Prescott, I applied for an internship to go to Nepal
Mhm.
and carry loads on Mount Everest, as high as they would let me, I guess. And lucked out, the person who owned the company that I applied to just happened to be a graduate of my college. So I was asked to come and do that. And shortly thereafter, maybe 3 weeks, maybe a month after receiving that offer for that internship, we found out that we were pregnant with our first child.
Mhm.
And I did some reassessing. I felt like that was pretty irresponsible to leave at that time to do something that can be dangerous, very dangerous on the other side of the world. And so I shifted my focus for the time being, temporarily, I thought, to outdoor education instead of big mountaineering. And in retrospect, that was maybe the first step of me starting to compromise parts of me in order to make this relationship work, in order to make this new family work.
Mhm.
And as you might imagine, one compromise led to another, maybe led to another, trying to do the right thing, trying to make everyone happy, and maybe not focusing as much on who I really was. And so each time I gave a piece of that away, I'm sure I became a little more resentful, probably less fun to live with. And the series of compromises led to moving back across the country, living in a place I said I would never live again. There are no mountains here in Indiana, if people don't know that. And so I started working in schools. I've been a middle school teacher for 20 years, and I've led some programming here in the United States for the last 25 years doing outdoor education. Eventually, though, that compromise led to I came home from work one night and my first wife said, "How was your day? We don't talk anymore." And I said, "Man, I had the same day that I had yesterday, and I'm probably going to have the same day tomorrow.
Mhm.
And one of these days, that's not going to be good enough. And I'm just going to leave." That's a shitty thing to say. Sorry. It's just a terrible thing to say to someone. It's not fair. It wasn't her fault. It was my fault. I'm the one who made those compromises, but I found myself feeling like that was irreconcilable. And so eventually we did split and on to other things. I won't say bigger and better, but other things. Yeah.
Well, this is very inspiring. And you know what comes to mind, Alan, is I told you I'm a mental fitness coach, right? And I'm helping people understanding the saboteurs which are running through the subconscious mind. I mean, first we all have the judge, we judge ourselves. Oh, I'm not good enough. I messed up. And we judge others. You're not good. And we judge circumstances. But the main saboteur, they have accomplices. There's the perfectionist, there's the controller, and there's the avoider, there's the hyper rational, hyper vigilant. But the one I'm just going to come to, there is the pleaser, right? And the
Mm,
pleaser, this is the interesting one because when I heard you talking, this came to mind is that we like to say yes to people because we are good people, yes, and but sometimes what we realize is that we say yes when actually we don't even understand why we said it because we really meant no. And this is when we forget, when we realize that we forget ourselves, this is when the issue comes because
mm.
we let people go over our boundaries. You use the word which is so much aligned to this. It's resentful because yeah, of course we have resentment, and the more we do, the more we are disconnected from who we really are. So sometimes it's really about and realizing that yeah, what's the point? What's the point?
Yeah, so many of my clients, I have a tool that is a building boundaries journal because I know that it would have been super helpful for me back then. And one of the questions is, when was the last time you told someone no? And how
Exactly.
did you feel about it? Because
Yes.
we do have to, and there is a guilty piece. Yeah, I left that marriage. That was my choice after those years of compromise. And of course I felt guilty about it. I still have days where I felt guilty about it. And that was 11, 12 years ago. But my son is with his mother this week. We do a week on and a week off. Yeah, I feel guilty that one, he's not with me. And then when he's with me, I feel guilty because his mother only sees him half the time. Yeah. I mean, those are ongoing things for sure. But what I've come to learn and that from my oldest daughter, she said, but what you taught us was Your happiness is your responsibility. And you taught us not to stay if we're unhappy. Not you, you showed us how to not be unhappy. You have found the next thing. And so I just have to believe, take the big picture view that I did the right thing and I am showing them the best version of me and also how to set those boundaries for themselves.
Exactly. And this is so profound because you see, when you said, "Oh, I have guilt," well, it's because in a relationship there is this, but as well there were certainly things from the other side as well. And sometimes it's about communication, and
Hmm.
we realize that for whatever reason we are not on the same path, and sometimes on the same growth path. And yes, we make errors. I'm divorced myself, and I experienced something similar, in a way. I mean, it's so I can understand that. But you see, what I would say is that everything which happens in our life, I mean, that now this is my understanding, perhaps my spiritual understanding,
Hmm.
happens for a reason. Everything. There are no coincidences. It means that we some things happen, and the and sometimes it doesn't have the results we'd like, but instead of thinking it's a terrible thing, instead of just doing that, what about taking a distance and thinking, oh, okay, what did I learn from that? How can I
Absolutely.
grow from that? And when you do this, this is when you realize that actually it's because of this that you realize exactly perhaps who you were, and then it's time to move on. But you see, what's valid for you, it's certainly valid as well for your ex-wife. You see, very often it's for both. I mean, we
Mhm.
realize that, and thank you for sharing what your eldest daughter said, because it's so to the point that, when you say, it's like about, right? We, we learn things. I know now I learned things from the past. Would I have done things differently? Sure. But
Mhm.
you see, I don't have guilt. I don't have, because it's like this was it. Now I'm moving on to another part. And when we learn from that, this is really when we grow as human beings and when we become a better version of ourselves.
And look at what it's made space for, right? So that's the first part of the story. The next
Exactly.
part of the story is I reconnected with my love for being in the outdoors. I started a company
Mhm.
and for 20 years have taken teenagers on adventure programs throughout the United States, um, working with teenagers has given me the skills and the insights to see they're going through the same stuff. They're just going through it the first time. They don't know who they are. They're trying to figure out who they are, what hat fits. It is just like, in so many ways, someone who is divorced. Uh, they're emotional. They don't know what comes next. And so having those skills to apply, but then also working in that school, uh, it reconnected me with that love of the outdoors. I was invited as a safety backup person because of my background to a
Mhm.
trip on Mount Rainier many years ago. This has been about 10 years now. And so, yeah, of course I'll go. And my girlfriend at the time was super curious. And she was also my running partner. She said, "Can I come along? Just to go to the base camp, or you all can leave me behind wherever. But I'm really interested." Like, okay. So she came. We had a great trip. We had to do some interpersonal massaging with some of the personalities on the trip. I think, which was a neat way for us to work together to create some cohesiveness on that particular trip with some people who weren't getting along. And boy, when we got off of the mountain, I felt like we had really been through some things. And she loved the part of me that I also love. And in Seattle, before we got on the plane to come home, we went out for dinner one night and got engaged. She's now my wife. We've traveled to Patagonia. We've traveled to Belize, Mexico, Puerto Rico. We've done dozens of trips in Maine and Colorado, uh, educating both teenagers and now adults. We take adults on these trips as well as part of the coaching program. And yeah, we've both flourished as we have really seen inside each other what the most important pieces are.
I have to say, it's such a beautiful story. I really love it because you see, then, okay, you get out of this first marriage for whatever reasons, and now you see, you live the life of your dreams with somebody who's sharing your passions, and for everybody who listens, I mean, really, the Alan's words are so powerful. Is in a relationship when you grow together and when you really want the other person to grow the most, and when there's reciprocity, and which is based on shared hobbies or shared principles or beliefs. This is really what makes a relationship work.
Yes, and for us, she's out of town right now. She is off training Montessori educators in Canada, and having those separate interests and having those areas that we want to grow that are they're maybe adjacent to one another, but they're
Mhm.
not exactly the same. And not having any jealousy, not having any sort of envy over what that person is doing, because we each have a pretty clear vision of who we are. And so we celebrate the other person's wins, we push them, we challenge them. I don't think you mean what you're saying right now. We challenge each other to say no to things, which is
Of
hard
course.
for both of us because we like to just be out and about. And so, um, when we focus on the thing that really matters to us, when we're clear on it first and we know what our values are, and then we can create a vision of what our lives look like down the road, then in the moment right now, we attract those people who want to celebrate that with us. And we repel the people who aren't interested in that. And that is also really, really important.
Wow. Again, this is so important because see, life is about attracting. It's not about chasing. It's about being who
Absolutely.
we are. It's about being authentic. And see, something came to mind, and I'll just ask for your feedback on this one. You see, for me, and I've heard it, I've not invented myself, but I like the equation which says that in a relationships, 1 plus 1 equals 3. I love it. And I tell you
Mhm.
why. What do I mean by that? You say, no, I'm a teacher. It doesn't matter.
Say more.
It means that each person is a whole,
Mhm.
they've got their past, they've got their friends sometimes, and they've got their passions, and they are who they are. So one person, the other person as well. So, but then and you are whole enough even without anybody. You are just whole as you are. But now the third element is when you are in this relationship with this other person, it brings it on a further stage where
Mhm.
there is this growth together. One helps the others, and of course there are ups and downs. But when you are in this journey together, this is when the relationship is really the best. Because you see, some people that they have a relationship because they have a fear to be alone. Right? They're going to be with someone. And when I listen, I hear that. It's for me, it's really difficult because this is when you have to compromise. This is when you have to forget a part of yourself, and when the difficulties come. So for everybody here who is not in a relationship, be the best relationship will always be with yourself. This is the only one you are sure you have until the end of your life. So make sure that you look after yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And the more you do that, and I think we'll get to that afterwards, the more your vibrations are going to increase
Absolutely.
and the more you are going to attract other people.
Yeah. Two things about that. I guess being in a relationship isn't necessarily a right. We earn that by being the best versions of ourselves, and
Mhm.
and being worthy of being in that relationship or being someone that people want to be around. Me being the best version of myself,
Mhm.
that's who she is attracted to. That's who she wanted to be with, my wife Emily. I have a similar bad math problem with relationships. People say relationships are 50-50, right? And so if I give 50 and she gives 45 because she's not feeling great that day, we've got a gap, don't we? Or I'm not at my best. I'm given 40 today and she's given 45. Like that's almost 50-50. No, it's 100 and 100. Like, I have to be willing to show up every day all the way in so that
Exactly.
if she's not there, then we can make it through that. And if I have those bad days where I'm not interested or I'm low energy or whatever the case might be, she has more than enough energy. And those who know my wife will laugh about this, but she's like 150% kind of person. So I think that's the only way it can work.
Yeah, absolutely, exactly. Unconditional support for the other, being here for, you see, for the good and for the bad. And I mean, sometimes, of course, we all have issues. I mean, this is life, things happen.
Mhm.
But when you know that the other person is going to support you the best they can and to help uplift you and to try to solve things with you, this is really when there is this proximity. And this is what makes a relationship so powerful.
Yeah, and it takes the pressure off because I can make mistakes. It's
Exactly.
okay. I can just be human.
It's about being who we are, being fully authentic. And so about you mentioned, I mean, we had just a small chat, but there is this sentence. I remember the first time I listened to that. It was like a few years ago when somebody said, it was in a Zoom chat, says what Nikola Tesla said: if you want to
Mm.
understand the secret of the universe, think in terms of energy, vibrations, and frequency. And when I heard it, it kind of hit me. It's like, oh. And obviously, before I had heard that for Einstein, everything is energy. We are all molecules in
Mhm.
small atoms in movement. So I would like your take on that about vibrations, about energy, and as well, this in the context of outdoors.
Oh, I think if we don't believe it, walk into a room where there's just been an argument. You know that there's just been an argument there. You can feel the energy. You can feel the tension when you go in. Um, so when you talk about in the outdoors, some of my best meetings with clients happen outside. There's a local trail. We can make it an hour. We can make it 2 hours. We can make it 3 hours if they really need it. But being in movement in a world that is happening really with an indifference to us is so important because what's going on that trail while we're there is going on that trail right now without us. The world carries on. It has its own energy. It's not wrapped up in our problems. Our problems are super temporary, regardless of what we think. And so there is something to movement, both literal and figurative. Literally, when we get moving on the trail, things open up. And it leads to that movement toward the next thing in our lives for a lot of these people too. And so I think it's just there's no substitute for me and for what I do for being outside, whether it's the 1 hour meeting on a trail or whether it's a father son retreat that we do on an island in Maine, or whether it is a summer camp for adults where we're just out hiking on trails in Colorado or playing in snow. It just changes everything.
This is so nice. You see, I might attend one of these retreats, Alan. I mean, I'm in London, but I'm so kind of tempted by that. You see, this is
We're going international soon. It won't be this year, but next year.
well, then I mean, in the UK, there are beautiful places as well to hike. You could go to the Lake Districts. You could go to Scotland. I mean, there are many. I mean, there are a lot of
My
trails around the coast here.
my 14-year-old has this new infatuation. He's enamored with Norway. So
Okay.
so we are giving him money. This, yeah, he won't hear this, for a plane ticket. and he and I are going to go next year and do some scouting for maybe some programming areas. Should be fun.
I mean, it's a beautiful country, and
Mm,
see, it's a very long one. It depends. It's, I think, nearly 4,000 kilometers, if I'm correct. You go
yeah.
from the south to the north, so it's very interesting. And so in the north, I've been to the next to the actually over the Arctic Circle, this, and it's beautiful there as well. And yeah, I mean, for nature, Norway is
Yes.
absolutely marvelous. If you see the fjords, and there are few inhabitants, with regards to the immensity of the land. So it's very nice. So,
Yeah. I don't know who's more excited, me or him.
well, you see, so I suppose now your kids as well, you, you spend a lot of time outside with them, I guess.
We do, and it's funny. My oldest daughter actually went to the college that I was attending when we found out that we were pregnant with her. She traveled back to Arizona, full circle. She also is a Montessori educator. She teaches at a forest school, so her children are outside essentially all day. They do some indoor lessons in yurts, but otherwise, she is, um, I guess, a chip off the old block. And my son is a little different. He's more of an introvert. But our youngest, with my wife now, is 5, and she is absolutely an outdoor kid for sure. So it's funny how that happens.
Yeah, well, it's thank you for sharing, Alan. And see, my youngest daughter in the UK, when we arrived there, she was 2 years old, and she went to a Montessori school, and this was
Mm.
very amazing. And for anybody who doesn't know what Montessori is and the philosophy, I'd like you to say a few words about this educational method, if I can call it this way.
Yeah, sure. So Maria Montessori was a doctor in Italy in the 20s, 30s, 40s. She was exiled, traveled to India for a while, and she studied child development. She started her schools with kids that they called incorrigibles or unteachables. And she found that we learn through interaction with our environment. Whoa, there's a big metaphor again, right? And so she built a series of sensorial materials for the youngest learners, 0 to 3 year olds, to just interact with geometric shapes and mathematical things and sandpaper letters, all kinds of stuff. And so she found roughly that there are 3 year age groupings. So 0 to 3 year olds, 3 to 6 year olds, 6 to 9, 9 to 12, et cetera, et cetera.
Hmm.
And each is a sensitive period for a specific type of learning.
Hmm.
That's it in a nutshell. But there is a large outdoor component in a lot of the schools. For middle schoolers, what I love is she found that she felt that they shouldn't even be in a classroom. They should be working on a farm or running a bed and breakfast or a restaurant or a hotel. And so we've incorporated that at our school as well. So every Wednesday is occupations day for our teenagers. We have a cafe. They prepare food for the rest of the school. We have a wood shop, which I do. Our kids build things. We have an enormous garden. Sometimes they'll sell things to the cafe. So it's this giant microeconomy. We have one group that does fiber arts, and then we have a digital media group who makes podcasts and does advertising for all the others. So it's really a cool thing to see the the theory put into practice, and then the kids in real time get to get their assessment in a real way. It's not me saying, oh, you did a good job. It's, did it sell or did it not sell? You know if it did a good job or not. Okay, that piece that you made wasn't painted properly, wasn't stained properly, or it wasn't cut properly. It didn't sell. Well, what are you going to do? Change the price, do better next time. Let's figure it out.
This is see, when I listen to them, it's very inspiring as well, because actually this is how children can give the best of themselves as well, and in an environment where they're going to have fun doing things, not
Mhm.
only to have fun, but they already have a sense of responsibility. As you said, they've got to do things properly, because if we think about the general educational system, it's about learning, and this is this, and when people learn by heart, and then when you repeat it, this is when you have a mark. But
Mhm.
should it be like that?
We talk a lot about the kids learning to make and keep promises to themselves and to other people. Hold up your end of the bargain. And it is collaborative, and it's, I hate the word soft skills because those are super important things. They are not soft skills. Learning to interact with other humans and learning to communicate and learning to advocate for what you need. Those are maybe the most important skills, no matter what you do. And so I tell parents all the time, what we do isn't really about content because the world's knowledge is right here. You and I are talking to each other across the ocean in real time and looking at each other like we're sitting in the room together. That's cool. We have all the world's information available to us. What we need to do is learn how to manage our time. We need to learn how to work really hard, and we need to learn how to think critically because that flood of information isn't always real.
Absolutely, exactly. And of course, it's going to be even more the case with AI because
Oh,
it's
yeah.
we've got to really have to learn critical thinking because if not, some people are going to take everything for granted even without checking.
And we're being convinced that easier is better. And that's not new, but what's wrong with doing hard things? That's where we grow. And we have a saying in our house, type two fun. We seek out type two fun. We hold each other accountable to that. My wife and I have run 50-mile races together. We climbed Mount Rainier together. We went to Chile and backpacked through Patagonia while she was 6 months pregnant, by the way. Um, yeah, that's where the growth happens. Easy is not the goal. And I feel like I'm swimming upstream working with teenagers right now because if it's difficult, if that means leaning over and picking up a piece of paper and walking 10 feet to the trash can, I'm like, yeah, our goal in life is not to be comfortable all the time.
Exactly. You see, and this, yeah, we say that it's if we want to change things in our lives, we have to get out of our comfort zone. And we
And if
have
it's
to,
worth doing, you have to put effort into it.
exactly, we have to do things differently. And there is this great saying, from Bob Proctor. He speaks about the gap between learning and doing. You see, and then
Mm.
he said, "Oh yeah, learning. I mean, we are flooded. We learn so many things, and some people they are living encyclopedias, and they have no, and the life is nothing. Why? Because learning, if you don't implement, if you don't do, nothing's happening. So everything is about taking action.
I run into a really common pattern with people I work with. They'll
Mhm.
have a stack of self-help books.
Yeah.
They've read all of them, and still they're calling me because they can't figure out what's next. They pick a page in one of those books and just do something that's in that book on that page. I don't even care what page it is. Just pick one. And so one of the things I do with them is called micro adventures, that just small things to change your pattern. It's not about the doing of some grand adventure. You don't have to quit your job and move to the Himalayas like I was going to do. It can just be take the wrong way home one day. Go for a walk without your AirPods and and take a left instead of a right. It can be compliment someone on their shoes. You have to do something that is unlike you and where the outcome is not known. I think that is so important because we find a couple of things. One, people are way friendlier than we think they are.
Mhm.
Uh, Also, no one's going to make fun of us. And if you can do that one thing and it's a win, then what's the next thing you can do? And we can start knocking over in a workshop I do. We use this analogy of dominoes. They can knock over another domino that's 1.5 times its size.
Mhm.
And pretty soon you're knocking over giant dominoes. And so stop calling things small wins because any win counts. Do the thing that is outside your comfort zone, that is a little bit of a challenge, and it feels good enough that you'll be willing to consider the next thing that's a little bit harder. And then you'll be willing to do the next thing that's a little bit harder. And and it just works. It just does. But so many people never do that first small thing. They'll read all the books and they'll listen to this podcast, but they won't call. They won't check in. They won't do the thing.
Absolutely. And I've experienced the same. And I have to say, I changed myself a lot because I used to be a lot like this. And afterwards, when I realized that I got myself a coach, and this is when a lot of things changed as well, because it's when you see, there's several things you said, Alan, resonated with me. Just first doing acts of kindness. You said smile to someone. Just be Because just this, you look at somebody, you smile already. Physiologically, when you smile, you cannot be angry at the same time. It's not possible.
Mhm.
So, and the more you do things, and you see, somebody you can make the day there. Imagine you are in the shop and there's this poor cashier who is struggling, etc. And you just say a few words, and it's like, wow, you see, I'm heard, I'm seen. You see, it's
Mhm.
about giving the feeling to people that they matter, they are seen, they are important, and again, whenever we do things, and this is very important, is we've got to do it without any expectations. It's just for because we feel like doing it, because we it's about giving, it's about caring, it's about loving, but unconditionally. And so I suppose this resonates with you, Alan. I see you smiling here.
Yeah, I love that you say that. I read a lot of Stoic philosophy, and the quote, "Don't expect the third thing. Just do the work, get the result, then go do the next thing. Uh, don't look for a pat on the back. Don't look for a reward. Don't look for because the more we do, the more change we create, and we don't have to see it. Like you just said, you just made someone's day by being nice to someone at the coffee shop. But what are they going to do now? They're going to turn around. They're going to reflect that back, and some of it is a little woo woo, but some of it's just neuroscience, right? Mirror neurons are a thing. And if I smile at someone, they can't help but start to smile. It's just going to start happening. And so that's a pretty good ripple to make, isn't it?
Exactly. And you see, this term woo woo, I learned not so long ago, but see, if I was listening, if my older version of myself, or older or younger version of myself, like say 6 years ago, was to listen to me now, you would say this person is a bit woo woo. You see, so but okay, I change, I embrace new ways of thinking, particularly on this spiritual realm. And you see, another word which is very important now in my life, well, it's gratitude, being grateful, and really, we are here. First of all, I wake up in the morning, I'm alive. It's not nothing. Some people are not there, and then you look at the trees, and sometimes it's about really being fully in the present moment, being mindful, I mean, of course, in nature, it's ideal because there you are there. Don't have to talk. You just look at the sea, look at the sky, look at the trees, look at the leaves, and really focus on that. And when you do this, this is like, this is how your nervous system can calm down, and you think, wow, nature is so beautiful, and people have it around them, and they don't see it.
Yeah, and study after study shows that the happiest people are the most grateful. When you just acknowledge the the amazing random circumstances. Maybe they're random, maybe they're not. As far as I know, they are. I have no ego in this. I don't know. That we are here right now, and all of this is happening around us right now. The odds of that happening are so minuscule. It's already a win. I mean, here we are.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
enjoy it. Just notice how many great things are out there, even on your worst day. Um, we just have this immense opportunity to if we know that what we have is enough, then we can focus elsewhere and we can focus on helping someone else realize that what they have is enough, or helping them get what they don't have. And that's probably the biggest gift of all, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. And You see, if we, again, perhaps if we go on the spiritual level, or I mean, in many religions, it's said that when we are born, we are perfect as we are. The
Mm.
Creator made us perfect. It's only afterwards that all these paradigms come to us very often through education, through different things. But when we realize that actually we, when we acknowledge who we are, and when we accept ourselves the way we are, and we are not perfect, and it's absolutely fine, but the more we practice self-love, and it's not about saying I'm great, I love myself. No, it's about accepting ourselves. It's about caring for ourselves, for our needs. The more we do that, the more we are going to be in peace with ourselves, and obviously our interactions with others is only a reflection of who we are. It's a mirror. So the more we do that, the more the perception of our outside world is going to change.
Yeah, I think that's why that connection between our core values and then creating a real vision for what matters to us is so important, because then we lose, in the very best way, any inclination to adopt someone else's vision, to feel like we're not enough. When I know what I care about and when I know where I'm headed, or what I want, then what other people do is far less concern to me. I'm happy right here, and you can do that thing, and that's wonderful for you. Uh, Eat pineapple on pizza. I think it's amazing. Go for it. You know, all the people who throw a fit about eating pineapple on pizza are the people who don't eat it. Why do you care? Like, move on, right? And so when you know the thing that matters to you, it's so much easier just to let everything else be, which is what we all need.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know, again, what comes to mind, Alan, and something which really changed my mind, a lot of ways I'm thinking. There's this little book called The Four Agreements,
Mm-hmm.
and
Don Miguel Ruiz, yeah.
exactly, Don Miguel Ruiz. I loved it. I mean, I
Mhm.
and the second agreement, which says, "Don't take things personally." You know, when I got into this concept, I thought, wow, because, you know, of course, somebody is going to talk to us, criticize us, and we feel threatened and we reply and we react, and then it escalates and we end up saying things which we didn't want to say. And when we realize that actually, whatever people say to you, even whatever people do to you, it's got nothing to do with you, nothing.
Mm-mm. Not a
You can
thing.
say, what do you mean? No, it is a reflection of who they are. They might have childhood trauma, which they are reflecting onto you. They might have fears. They might have insecurities. They might have, oh, sorry. Oh, sorry. I've got to, yeah. They've got guilt, you know. So, of course, some people do terrible things, and I'm not, you know, we're not
Mm.
challenging that, but the facts, when we realize that life happens, there are facts, but what makes a difference between all of us is what do we make of that? What do
Yeah,
we
what's your reaction? You
exactly,
you can control your reaction. You can't
ex-
control what other people do, but you can
exactly.
create that space. And before I say anything, take Jefferson Fisher has a great tool where he does the inhale first. Let your breath be your first word, and I love that so much.
Yes. Thank you for sharing. I mean, Alan has been absolutely fantastic. You know, the time
So good.
has flown so quickly, and I'm so grateful to you. And I have this question for you. If you were to leave our listeners with three tips in
Mm.
terms of, you know, what could make a difference for them, what would it be?
Yeah. Um, I really think that doing the hard thing matters. I think it builds belief. It challenges the notion that comfortable is important. I think doing the hard thing matters.
Okay.
Um, I think don't listen to anyone who is not doing what you want to be doing or hasn't done what you want to be doing. And don't
Mm,
take criticism and don't take advice. I think you know what you want, hopefully. Uh, So listen to yourself. And boy, I think travel is so important for smashing the ego. I'll speak for Americans. We think that our way is the way, and it isn't. People do things all different ways. And the more you can travel, the more you see that not as a threat, but as something to celebrate.
Thank you so much. I mean, this, I can't, it resonates so much as well with me. I mean, travel, go outside, spend time
Mm.
in nature, really just be yourself, enjoy it, and and stop the rat race and trying always to get more. No, it's life is not about having, it's not about doing, it's about being, just enjoying.
You are a verb, not a noun. Go do things.
Yes, well, exactly. Thank you. And Alan, if our listeners want to connect with you, and I'm sure a lot will want to do so, what's the best way to contact you?
Well, I would love to, yeah, to talk with anybody who would like to. I'll have a page for your listeners. It's at crookedtrailcoaching.com, and
Hmm?
then it'll just be slash redesign for your listeners only.
Well, okay, and it can be as well for other listeners. You see, it's
Absolutely.
I mean, we would like this to be spread to other people.
Sure.
But thank you so much. I really am so grateful for this beautiful conversation. And as you can see, there was a lot of it resonated a lot with me. But this love for nature, I mean, it just already this is, the more we can spend time and, retreats and everything. Again, people being together in a certain environment, just outside the city, or it makes such a difference, just a difference.
Yeah, it's raining today, but I'm gonna go for a run.
Of
I
course,
just that's part of it.
the rain is
The
beauty as
world
well.
does what it does, and so go be a part of it.
Exactly. So again, thank you so much, Alan, and thank you for our listeners who are with us now. And I hope you enjoyed this conversation. And please make sure that you share this with other people. If you see people, that they could do more. Sometimes they forget about nature. They forget about being curious, about traveling. This could be something really nice for people. So thank you very much. It was a pleasure to have all of you here with us today. And I'm just saying bye bye and see you in the next episode.